I call this meeting of the House Committee on Privileges and Elections to order. Our first order of business will be to take attendance. So if the clerk will please open the roll, and if members will record your presence. The committee will be at ease. It's the green button. All right. And because this is the first one, we're just going to go old school and we're going to do verbal attendance. So listen for your names, please.
Excuse me, give me a minute. I don't have a minute. Thank you. Okay. Delegate Price.
Here.
Delegate Conver Fowler. Here. Delegate Krizek.
Here.
Delegate Reed.
Present.
Delegate Glass.
Here.
Delegate Glass.
Here.
Delegate Cole.
Present.
Delegate Henson.
Here.
Delegate Anthony.
Here.
Delegate Levere Bowling.
Present.
Delegate Zing.
Present.
Delegate Bolivar.
Here.
Delegate McAuliffe.
Here.
Delegate Carnegie. Here. Delegate Carroll.
Present.
Delegate Cole.
Here.
Delegate O'Quinn.
Here.
Delegate Leftwich.
Here.
Delegate Bloxham.
Here.
Delegate Scott.
Here.
Delegate Watchman.
Here.
Delegate Cherry.
Here.
And Delegate Phillips.
Here.
All right, with the quorum established, thank you, Madam Clerk. We will get started. First, I would like to welcome everyone to the 2026 legislative session. You are in the room of the longest continuously running committee in the entire nation. So we take that very seriously, and we also have some new members. So the first thing that we want to do, starting to my left with Delegate Reed, if you'll say your name, your district number, and your localities.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Delegate David Reed, representing House District 28, which is the part of the eastern portion of Loudoun County.
Thank you. I'm Delegate Paul Krizek, representing the 16th District. It's in Fairfax County, includes Mount Vernon, which is the home of President George Washington, who was on the P&E committee.
I'm Delegate Converse Fowler, District 96 in Virginia Beach.
Delegate Joshua Cole, representing the 65th District, counties of Spotsylvania, Stafford County, and the God Save City of Fredericksburg, and the birthplace of George Washington.
Good afternoon. I'm Delegate Roja A. Henson Jr., representing House District 19. And Madam Chair, the view back here is pretty nice. I don't know how long I have.
If y'all don't just say your name.
Israel O'Quinn, I represent the 44th District, which is all of the city of Bristol and Washington County and part of Russell County.
Jay Leftwich, represent the 90th House District and near the Dismal Swamp Canal, which is what George Washington oversaw the construction.
So I'm going to call order because Lower Row, do not learn from us for this. Please, just your name. Just your name now. Just your name now.
Yeah, this is Rob Locks. Represent the 100th, which is the Eastern Shore and the north part of Virginia Beach.
Delegate Philip Scott, represent the 63rd District, which parts of Spotsylvania and Orange counties.
Delegate Otto Waxman, I represent the 83rd District, counties of Sussex, Greensville, Brunswick, Southampton, City of Emporia, and portions of Dinwiddie and Isle of Wight.
Delegate Mike Cherry, I'm glad I only have two of those localities. I represent Chesterfield County and Colonial Heights, 74th House District.
Delegate Eric Phillips, I represent the 48th District, which includes Pennsylvania County, Henry County, and the city of Martinsville.
Delegate Nicole Cole, I represent House District 66. It's parts of Spotsylvania and most of Caroline County.
Delegate Stacey Carroll from the 64th District, and I represent parts of Stafford County.
Delegate Casey Carnegie, I represent the 89th House District, which is parts of Chesapeake and Suffolk.
Delegate John McAuliffe, representing the 30th House District, Western Loudoun County and Northern Fauquier.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am David Bulova. I represent the 11th House District. That's the city of Fairfax, parts of central Fairfax County, and I am the current home of President Washington, but that is President Greg Washington of George Mason University.
Delegate J.J. Singh, 26th District, Loudoun County, and if President Washington were alive, he'd fly in and out of Dulles Airport.
Delegate Destiny Levere Bowling, representing House District 80, which is a portion of Henrico County.
Delegate Benita Anthony, represent the 92nd House District, portions of Norfolk and Chesapeake.
And Delegate Jackie Hope Glass, representing the 93rd District, which is parts of Norfolk.
And I am Delegate Cia Price. I represent the 85th District with parts of Newport News. Thank you so much for being here today. I do see a lot of familiar faces, but we also see a lot of new faces. So I just want to run down what you can expect for today. First of all, members, because the composition of this committee may change in the next coming days, we will announce subcommittees at our next regularly scheduled meeting. And then for everyone, we will be listening to the presentations for 4 House joint resolutions, which are proposed constitutional amendments. We will go in chronological order, and the patrons will introduce their House joint resolution. Then the committee has an opportunity to ask questions, and then there will be public comment. We will have those that are in the room that want to speak in favor of it go first. Then those that are in the room that are against the amendment to go next. Then we will go online to for and online to against. And then we will come back to the committee, and then the patron will have an opportunity to speak before we vote. I would like to remind everyone that we are on a timeline because we do have to go back to the floor, and that the clock that you will see is not a suggestion. Please let me be nice today. I would love to do that. And I am inviting you into this room. We're asking that you have decorum and professionalism. We all have thoughts, we all have feelings, but we will also all have respect. So with that, if there are no questions from the committee, seeing none, we will call up Leader Herring for House Joint Resolution 1. Leader Herring, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Last year, we did have full debate on this measure, and it's a pleasure to be before you again today for the second passage of this important constitutional amendment. HJ1 is an amendment to Section 1 of the Virginia Bill of Rights, which provides a fundamental right to reproductive freedom. This amendment protects the rights of individuals to carry out decisions related to their own prenatal care, contraception, abortion care, miscarriage management, and fertility care. And it provides for the protection, Madam Chair, of the full spectrum of reproductive health care, from birth control to fertility treatment. I hope it is the pleasure of this committee to pass the resolution again.
Thank you, Madam Leader. And members, if you have any questions, if you could use your request to speak button, and now is the time for questions. Are there any questions for Madam Leader? Seeing none, we will now move to public testimony. So if you are in favor of House Joint Resolution 1, if you will please all get up and line up at the podium. And if you want to organize, you will have 5 minutes on the clock. And remember, if you do not get a chance to speak, our online public written comment will remain open. And even if you do get to speak, we'd love for you to submit what you say in writing so that we can refer back to it. I'm sorry, that was my fault. If the clerk can restart to the 5 minutes, so you can get your full 5 minutes. All right, and please identify yourself, your name, who you're representing, and yes, the clock will start now.
Hi, my name is Celeste Garrett. I'm with Planned Parenthood Advocates of Virginia. I'm a volunteer. I live in King William County. I'm here to speak in favor of this constitutional amendment. I was fortunate enough to have access to reproductive care about 12 years ago. My son, who is in this room before, here, would not be able to be here if I had not had access to this care. About 12 years ago, I had a wanted pregnancy. My husband and I were overjoyed, and at 12 weeks pregnancy, they could no longer detect a heartbeat. So I had a miscarriage. At the time, I was given the option, do I go home and just let it do its thing, or do I have the DNC, which is what was an option at that time. I decided to go home and let nature take its course. About halfway through, a few days later, I started bleeding out. I couldn't stand. I was passing clots, and so I had to be rushed to the hospital. At that hospital, there was no question, there were no debates, we have to go get permission. The doctor said, you need a DNC in order to live. I had lost so much blood at that point, they could not give me painkiller because my blood pressure was so low. But they did give me the DNC, which is an abortion, and that is what saved my life. It did not leave my youngest, his brother and sister would have been motherless had I not had that abortion, and he never would have been born. So I am grateful that I had that right and that freedom to make that choice with my healthcare providers, and I hope that this constitutional amendment helps guarantee that right and freedom to any future pregnant people. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Taylor Gilmore. I am here actually with ACOG of Virginia, and I am an OBGYN provider in the state. I feel very fortunate to work in a state where I don't have to think about when I have a patient who comes in infected because their water prematurely has broken before pregnancy can survive outside of the womb, that I can focus on taking care of them and don't have to think about whether or not I will go to jail in order to provide life-saving care. I've actually had the privilege of taking care of several patients in this situation and then gone on to take care of them in healthy future pregnancies. I think the importance of this amendment is also very much stressing the relationship a patient has with their doctor, and also how I can focus with each patient about their individual beliefs and goals, and again, provide care that is safe for them without worrying about the effects that will have essentially on them and their livelihood.
Hi, my name is Sarah Sanatkar, and I'm here with Virginians for Reproductive Freedom and Reprorising Virginia. I was born and raised in Iran. My family and I moved to the United States on July 25th, 2016. The week before leaving Iran, I was leaving a therapist's office with my mother, and I was really sad, and she looked at me and she said, I am so happy that you get to live in a country where you get to make decisions about your body. I have grown up navigating governments that seek to control people's bodies. And as people in my home country right now fight for their freedoms, I find it imperative to stand in front of this legislative body and ask of you to support Virginia's freedom to make decisions about their reproductive health without fear of criminal punishment for them or the providers that provide that care for them. And I myself was able to have the care that I couldn't back home in 2019 in Virginia Beach, where I was able to have an abortion. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. I'm Kenda Sutnell, the Executive Director of Birth and Color. I'm a mother, a doula trainer, and I fight for families the system has failed. I support the Reproductive Freedom Amendment because Black and brown families in Virginia cannot afford to lose reproductive freedom. This amendment protects our right to make our own healthcare decisions, contraception, childbirth, abortion, fertility, without the government interference or criminal punishment. For my community, this is about survival. We face the highest maternal mortality rates. We experience discrimination in care. We navigate systemic barriers every single day. This amendment says your body, your choice, your dignity. Thank you.
And with only a few seconds left, my name is Cheyenne, and I am the Advocacy Director for Birth and Color, and I speak in strong support of HJ1.
Thank you so much. And to those that did not get a chance to speak, please support, put your comments of support in the hot speak. Now, if you are here to speak against the amendment the proposed constitutional amendment of HJ1, if you will please rise and you can get in line. And remember, when you're speaking, the 5 minutes is for everyone. If you're first, you can come on up. Yep. All right. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Dr. Michael Huffman. I'm the Executive Director with the Virginia Assembly of Independent Baptists. And we oppose this amendment based on the language. First of all, it does not give proper oversight because it says the Commonwealth shall not take adverse action against anyone assisting in the abortion. Members of the committee, no matter what position you take, wouldn't you want your loved ones having proper oversight? But that's not what the resolution says. The resolution lacks parental notification, as we've seen in Fairfax, where a child does not have to give parental notification in the state of an abortion. And this resolution lacks a conscience clause or religious exemption where a religious hospital or Christian doctor could be forced by the language to perform an abortion contrary to their religious, deeply held belief. Madam Chair, this resolution lacks moral decency. It lacks legislative responsibility, and it relax constitutional freedoms. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, delegates. Welcome or welcome back. And I'm Jennifer Hubert with the Virginia Society for Human Life. We're in opposition of this proposed amendment for several reasons, but among those are the fact that the language of this will put women in danger. It will only protect abortion providers. And there are many topics on which it discusses that we all agree on, but there is language here that would deeply put women in danger from being mistreated by doctors and medical professionals or those who claim to be. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm from Spotsylvania County. I'm with an organization called Parents for Life. This amendment denies a parent's right to know, as in my case, where I was responsible for $27,000 in medical costs following a botched abortion that I didn't even have the right to know about. So please protect parents, give them the rights, and protect our teen girls. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman. My name is Sandy Spencer, and I'm a retired registered nurse here with Concerned Women for America, Nelson County, and I do oppose this amendment. God said there are 6 things he detests and the 7th he hates, and that is the shedding of innocent blood. Nothing is more innocent than a fetus, a tiny human being, whether it's inside the mother's womb or outside. I ask that you get a visual of a little human being literally being ripped apart limb by limb, knowing that that is what you are putting pen to paper. Think of the excruciating pain that this little human being feels as it is being murdered. Do not be deceived. You are absolutely complicit in what God says that he hates because you are paving the way for this procedure to occur. We heard this morning about the greatest gift being love, and I ask you to look at your hearts and ask yourself, is this action love? Thank you.
Good day. Hi, my name is Renee Kemp, and I'm against this. I've been a labor and delivery nurse for 30 years, and we've never once refused a woman care, whether that baby is, and especially if that baby has passed away, that woman will get care. So to say that you come in and you get
criminal action against that is a lie. And then for people who claim that Black Lives Matter, it's heartbreaking to know that 80% of abortion clinics or Planned Parenthood are placed in predominantly Black and brown areas more than any other communities. Margaret Sanger's views on race and her involvement in the Negro Project, instigated in 1939, aimed to promote birth control in African American communities. She expressed concerns about the higher birth rates amongst Blacks, stating that the mass of ignorant Negroes still breed carelessly, which has led to significant criticism. And as a Black person, if you do not see that that is targeted, then we need to change something.
My name is Kathy Meckley, and I'm from Franklin County. This amendment is unnecessary as laws are already provided for legal abortions beyond the second trimester through doctor's approval. This amendment does not address psychological effects. Over just about 50 years ago, I had 2 abortions, and for 30 years, I suffered psychologically. It affected many of my relationships because of no care from anyone as being available until I found a pregnancy center that offered counseling for me to recover from my situation. And the other issue that I am concerned about is the protection of women and girls who are being sexually trafficked. There's no amendment, there's no protection for them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If you were not able to speak again, you'll be able to enter in your full comment online at HotSpeak. Thank you for being here today. We're now going to go online to those that we see for speaking in favor first. And I think we have Ashley Elstad.
Yes, hello. My name is Ashley Elstad. I use she, they pronouns. I live in Woodbridge, Virginia. I'm the advocacy manager at Homke Center. We serve Asian Americans to achieve social, racial, and economic justice in Northern and Central Virginia. And as a member of the Virginians for Reproductive Freedom Coalition, I just want to state my support for HJ1 and the constitutional amendment for repro freedom. Thank you very much.
Dr. Patricia Heyer.
Welcome, and I'm Pat Heyer from Blacksburg, Virginia, and I represent the League of Women Voters, which strongly supports HJ1. Every Virginian deserves the freedom to make personal health care decisions without government interference. These decisions include the full spectrum of comprehensive reproductive health care. HJ1 will guarantee that the state cannot deny or interfere with an individual's reproductive freedom in their most personal healthcare decisions. And our healthcare providers need to be able to act in the best interests of patients without government interference or fear of punishment. The legislation provides that protection. The League urges you to support the passage of HJ1.
Michelle Chan.
Hi all, sorry about my voice. My name is Michelle, I go by Mitch as well too. I'm a community member with Homke Center and Virginians for Reproductive Freedom. I just wanted to state I support the constitutional amendment for reproductive freedom HJ1. I really honestly hope that all of you here support this constitutional amendment. It gives each of us the right to make decisions about our own body. I want to live in a state where there are stronger protections for myself, right? Stronger protections for the drugs that I need, right? Contraceptive drugs that I need. Things like my Fembry, they actually literally make my life so much better. Like, I started it that 1 year ago. There's less pain, right? Those are things that are, that there are people out there who are trying to take away from me, right? That decision for my own body. And in addition, as a lesbian in a queer relationship, right? I want to live in a state where medical practitioners can carry out IVF procedures without fear of being called murderers because something might have happened, right? I need a state that protects IVF for also the moms, right? So I, once again, would like you guys to support the constitutional amendments, HJ1. All right, thank you.
Alex Sprague.
Yes, hi. Well, let's just say, lucky for those who didn't learn their lesson after the 2025 elections. I don't have all the time in the world to bark at them about this, but I feel the need to repeat what I said last time. If abortion was truly murder, Missouri and Montana, out of all states, would not have approved of it on their constitutional ballot stuff and all that. But you want to talk about murder? How about starting with Jonathan Ross, eh? Okay, it's we got limited time, that's all I'll say.
And that is all that I have online for the 4. So if we could reset the clock. And then we have Dana Dematia for, against. The clock will start now.
Hi, my name is Dana. I'm a Northern Virginia resident. I'm just here to say that I don't want to live in a state that supports this. This is what third trimester abortion is. This is what this looks like. And if this does not look like murder, then I don't know what murder is. Thank you. I want you to think about Harriet when you vote yes on HJ1.
Anne Gregorian.
Yes, thank you. I would like to say I oppose this. I think the extremely vague language included in this amendment provides no protection for Virginia taxpayers from reproductive tourism, and it commits us to unfunded mandates in perpetuity. I strongly oppose this amendment for those reasons.
Beth Fox.
Hi, my name is Beth. I'm the president of a human rights nonprofit called Rehumanize International, and we strongly oppose this amendment on the basis of abortion. We absolutely support women to have the freedom to choose how to handle things like fertility and miscarriage management, things like that. But abortion is not like any of the other things listed in this amendment. Abortion ends the life of a living child in the womb. This amendment also specifically says that during the 3rd trimester, abortion is allowed if the fetus is deemed to be non-viable, not that it has already passed, and as somebody who was a fetus in that position, I take extreme onus with that language because when my mother was pregnant with me at 20 weeks, they told her that I would not be viable, that the condition that I had was not compatible with life, and encouraged her to seek an abortion. I am only here today because she had the courage not to do so. Again, we fully support women in managing their health care if the fetus has sadly passed away, but that is not what abortion is. Abortion is willfully ending the life of a child who could grow up to be like me and have a wonderful life.
Thank you for the public comment. We will now come back to the committee. If you have any questions or comments, please use your request to speak button. Seeing none, Madam Leader, you will have. I'm sorry, I don't see it. Let us be at ease.
Glitches with the systems. A couple questions for the patron, Madam Chair.
Go for it.
My first question is, what is the standard for the 3rd trimester life of the mom? That's pretty obvious, but the physical or mental health. Current code has irremediably impair the mental or physical health. So there's no standard in that constitutional amendment. I'm concerned that that's going to really water down what could be deemed as physically injure the mom. And so I'm wondering if the patron have clarification on that, Madam Chair, and then a follow-up question.
Madam Chair, if I may call on our expert, Dr. Gilmore, to answer that question,
yes,
that would be wonderful.
So in terms of the physical or mental health of the pregnant person, I think what this amendment stresses is that each person is an individual and that can change. And that is what I would be supportive of. I think in my experiences as a physician, again, I've learned that no patient is the same and everyone has their own unique story. And so it's my job as their provider to help them make the right decision for their health based on the different factors contributing to their health.
Madam Chair, follow-up question to that.
Delegate Scott.
So Madam Chair, my understanding would be, and the question for the patron would be, that there could be any physical health concern, not long-lasting, could be a temporary physical concern that the mother and the physician could decide that a third trimester abortion would be appropriate. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, I would answer the delegate that current law is what current law is. What he is citing is what is current law in the code. Madam Chair, the Dobbs decision lifted up the states to determine the parameters. And Madam Chair, this is consistent with the Dobbs and what is for us to determine. Ultimately, Madam Chair, this should be passed and the voters should decide.
Thank you. And the buttons are working. Delegate Leftwich.
I have a second question, Madam Chair.
I heard one follow-up. We'll come right back to you because we are moving forward. Delegate Leftwich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would now be the time just to make general comments too?
Let's get the questions
okay,
first.
right.
Thank you. Was yours a question? Yes. Delegate Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next question I have for the patron is, current code requires that third trimester abortions be performed in licensed hospitals or facilities operated by the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services. Again, the constitutional amendment doesn't have any parameters in that, and so we know that constitutional code will trump Virginia code. Constitutional language trumps Virginia code, and so what standards of care are there set up in this constitutional amendment for third trimester abortions?
Madam Chair, I would answer the delegate that this is a constitutional amendment. This is not standards of care. We are not amending the code. We are not touching the code. The law stands the way that it is, and it is up to the legislature to decide if they want to change anything. So what is required right now, what was read by the delegate, will still be required if this constitutional amendment should pass. And further, Madam Chair, physicians, nurses, midwives, they're all already regulated. That does not change.
Any other questions? Delegate Leftwich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm struck by the comments, in particular the first lady who spoke in favor of the bill. And I can't speak for everyone, but I'm not up here to say that that fact pattern would not lead to the decision that she made. My concern is the actual language of the amendment. And while we've heard that, the code stays the code, this is just an amendment. All of these code sections that currently exist are going to be interpreted in light of the constitutional amendment. And so what we're going to have, in my opinion, as a lawyer, although I don't practice in this area, but I've been practicing law for over 30 years, you're going to have court cases that challenge parental consent under this amendment. And I predict that the court will have no choice but to decide that parental consent is not required for a 16-year-old. You're going to see your neighbor assisting someone actually perform an abortion without going to the hospital or medical clinic. And under the language of this code, that person cannot be prosecuted for helping a neighbor or a friend or even just an online service saying, hey, you need an abortion, I'll help you. That person cannot be prosecuted under this amendment. it flips Roe on its head. Whether you agree with Roe or not, in Roe, the state had a legitimate interest in the fetus. This amendment does not do that. It gives the woman the right to do what she wants to do. And I'm not here to argue about people not being able to do what they want to do, but there should be a state interest in a viable fetus and not someone in their third trimester who, and I'm not saying this to be flippant, but who decides in the third trimester, I'm mentally stressed out, I'm not prepared for this, and I need an abortion. I don't think that late in the stage is a valid reason. And I think those state codes that prevent that will be challenged, and the court will have no choice but to interpret this amendment that way and rule in that manner. And so for those reasons, more not so on a philosophical reason, standards, but on language reasons, I cannot support this amendment and intend to vote no.
Are there any other committee members? Any other committee members with questions or statements? Madam Leader, you have the last word.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are here because of the Dobbs decision. It is the Supreme Court that abandoned Roe. There is a legitimate interest in making sure that women are alive, and I'm so glad that the delegate mentioned the woman who spoke first. That's what is happening. In Virginia, we are lucky that we passed a Reproductive Health Protection Act so that she could get care and so many other women. But I would like to point the delegate and to everybody about cases in other states that pass abortion bans similar to what some legislators have done. You can look to Texas, for example. You can look to Georgia, where there was a delayed emergency in medical care due to an abortion ban that resulted in the death of a woman. As I mentioned Texas. A woman died because she did not have an abortion despite the risk to her health and fetal diagnosis. I ask the members to open your eyes and read. We have OB/GYN deserts in the Commonwealth of Virginia because there's constant attempts to restrict a decision of a woman. And Madam Chair, I bring our attention to the last woman who spoke, who put it simply that her mother had the right to make a decision. This is what this is about, and this is about saving women's lives because we've seen attacks over and over again, and enough is enough. And our voters, our constituents, our residents of the Commonwealth of Virginia can no longer allow politicians to dominate their bodies and their personal decision, whether it comes from contraception to determining whether they want IVF and fertility treatment to start their families. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. That is all testimony. This committee operates off motion.
Madam Chair.
Delegate Converse Fowler.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move to report the amendment.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we will report House Joint Resolution 1. We will go to the board, and for our newest members that are not yet in the system, we will have a voice call for your vote. But for those of us in the system, if the clerk will please open the rolls, members cast your votes, and then we'll go to the voice vote. Oh, it's working. New members, please. All right. So, Madam Clerk, thank you. That House Joint Resolution 1 passes on a vote of 15-7. We will now move to, thank you, Madam Leader. We will now move to House Joint Resolution 2 with Delegate Bennett Parker. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is House Joint Resolution 2, the second reference for proposed constitutional amendment. It provides an affirmative, fundamental right to vote for qualified voters. It also provides for the automatic restoration of political rights once a person with a felony conviction is released from incarceration, and also strengthens protections for individuals with disabilities, fostering a more just and fair society. The language is the same as what passed the House and Senate with bipartisan support last year, as well as in 2021. Virginia is the only state to permanently disenfranchise all individuals with felony convictions unless they individually petition the governor for rights restoration. The current system has no transparency and changes every 4 years, so no one knows what steps they need to take to get their rights restored. It is inconsistent and confusing. We deserve to have clear and simple rules about our elections and who is eligible to vote in them. This amendment creates a transparent, fair process that applies equally to everyone and is not left to the complete discretion of a single individual. Research shows that the restoration of rights benefits reentry, reduces recidivism, and makes communities safer because people feel included as part of our democracy and have a say in what happens in their communities. So this amendment is critical for all Virginians. The disenfranchisement of people with felony convictions is a relic of Virginia's Jim Crow past and was intentionally inserted into the 1902 Virginia Constitution to disenfranchise as many Black voters as possible. Today, more than 1 in 7 Black Virginians is disenfranchised, which is twice the national average. The proposed amendment also strengthens protections for individuals with disabilities, ensuring their voting rights are lost only if a court adjudicates that the person is incapable of understanding the act of voting. This contrasts with our current process, whereby when guardianships are set up, those under them lose the right to vote. You can be deemed legally incompetent to manage a checkbook and inadvertently also lose your right to vote. Under the amendment, a court would have to say you don't understand the act of voting before you lose that right to vote. This amendment recognizes that the right to vote is fundamental for our democracy. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate. Are there any questions from the committee? Double checking. Okay. And so if you are here in person to speak in favor of House Joint Resolution 2, if you will please come forward. And if we can get the 5-minute clock. You have the floor.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee. My name is Sheba Williams. I am the founder and executive director of No Left Turns. I am a directly impacted Virginian who reinstated my right in 2013 under Governor Bob McDonnell. I am the lead on the Right to Vote Coalition. Many of us who are here, we support this. My entire family has been impacted by this, and it's high time that we pass this. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members. My name is Irvin Purval. I was a returning citizen in 2019. 2020, I was blessed with the opportunity to get a job with New Virginia Majority, where I actually went out to help people get their rights restored and didn't have mine restored. 2 years later, I've gotten restored, so I know this bill will help a lot of people. I can remember when I first came to this great building, working with New Virginia Majority, that I saw the courthouse, which I used to stand in the courthouse, and now I'm standing in this great house with my rights restored. One day I might be sitting in one of those chairs. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. Sean Winetta from Richmond, Virginia, formerly disenfranchised Virginia, had my rights restored in 2021. No governor should get to pick and choose their voters, past, previous, or past, present, or future. Strongly support this amendment. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Blair St. Ledger Olson with the Virginia League of Conservation Voters. At the core of our environmental movement is equitable access to the ballot box, and for those reasons, we support the bill. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members, Chris Kaiser, ACLU of Virginia. We're here in support of HJ2. It's the right thing to do for Virginians and for our democracy, but beyond that, this would just make sure that there's just one standard, consistent rule so that the right to vote doesn't hinge on who happens to be governor or which party's in power. Thank you.
Hey, Madam Chair, my name is Kenneth Hunter with the Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy, and we represent 30,000 people of faith and goodwill, and we strongly support this constitutional amendment. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Jeff Caruso with the Virginia Catholic Conference. We support the amendment. We've all been afforded second chances in our lives, and we think, too, that people that have completed their prison sentences should get a second chance to participate in decisions that affect them, their families, and their communities. Please support the amendment. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Ashley Crocker, Progress Virginia, and we support the bill. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Ryan O'Toole, Freedom Virginia. We believe that you can't fully participate in our economy without fully exercising your right to vote. We support the amendment. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Freed Williams. I'm with Equality Virginia, and we urge you to support this amendment.
Good afternoon. I'm Liz White with Upvote Virginia, and we support this amendment as well.
If there's anyone here in opposition to House Joint Resolution 2, if you will please come forward at this time.
Yes, hi, my name is Ann Robinson. I'm in Yorktown, Virginia, and I oppose this bill. Thank you. HJ2.
I'm Lynn Bernard from Chesterfield County, and I'm with Concerned Women for America. I am the daughter of a judge and know that if we have felons that are allowed to vote, they may also be allowed to, or have all their voting rights restored, they may also be allowed on ballot, and would like you to consider whether you want to allow felons to sit amongst you in the chamber, as well as these felons could also be elected to school boards and have access to our children when they go in and do various types of volunteer work. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'm Dr. Michael Huffman with the Virginia Assembly of Independent Baptists, and our opposition on this bill is strictly because it doesn't mention a key element, and that's restitution. We were told last session that it doesn't mention restitution. Well, that's the problem. This is not about second chances. We believe at the VAIB in second chances, and we believe that a previously incarcerated person should have their right to vote restored once their debt to society has been paid. And if the court ordered restitution and that restitution has not been given, then their debt to society has not been paid. We are told that 1 in 7 Black Americans are disenfranchised. Well, Governor McAuliffe gave back the rights to over 206,000 previously incarcerated inmates from 2016. So I don't think it's a lack of transparency at all. So we are about second chances at the VAIB, and we believe in that. But we believe that sends a wrong message to the victim. When we don't we do not require restitution as part of the process of having your rights restored. So therefore, we oppose the bill on the language. Thank you very much.
My name's Stephen Verrocchio. I'm a private citizen, and I just have a concern about the precedent this may set. Admittedly, I have not read the bill. However, I'm concerned that it may open doors. If you automatically restore rights, it could open doors also to non-citizens, non-residents having the right to vote in this state. And that's my argument against. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now go online, and I am seeing Ann Gregorian. I think you have signed up to speak against. You have the floor.
Yes, thank you. Committing a felony is a choice, and being a victim is not a choice. I, too, disagree with this amendment based on language. It disregards restitution to victims and ignores the completion of probation before restoration of rights. I believe that victims deserve more consideration than this amendment gives to them. Thank you.
All right, we'll come back to the committee. If there are any questions or comments, if you'll use the request to speak. Delegate Phillips.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for the patron. I was just wondering, is there a reason when this was drafted that, it mentions the completion of their sentence, in other words, they get let out of jail or prison, but it doesn't talk about finishing up their societal debt when it comes to restitution, parole, all the other things that the court may impose? Was there a reason why that wasn't included specifically? It was just when they get out of jail because, again, they still have other parameters to go along with that.
Madam Chair, to the delegate, I would say that denying the right to vote based on ability to pay creates a modern-day poll tax, which unfairly penalizes those who want to fully participate in our society and have completed their period of incarceration but are not yet able to pay off their court debt. The right to vote should be fundamental and not subject to financial barriers, and this amendment does not eliminate anyone's obligation to pay restitution, and having the right to vote actually helps people re-enter society and be productive citizens, including securing jobs, which would then actually increase the likelihood that they could pay that restitution. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, I have one follow-up.
Did you have a follow-up? Yes,
ma'am.
Delegate
Thank
Phillips.
you. Thank you. I was just wondering, secondly, because again, there's a part of this I would really like to support, frankly. I do believe in second chances. I think a lot of our code has changed around people who receive large felony convictions for marijuana, different things now. In Virginia now, you can grow your own and smoke it, right? So it makes sense to have some changes. But I would say, for me, the most violent offenders, rapists, pedophiles, murderers, I mean, when someone takes a life, that person never gets a chance to express their rights ever again. So I was wondering why there wasn't more consideration possibly to the exclusion of some serious violent felonies. Thank you.
Madam Chair, to the delegate, I would say that this amendment applies to individuals who have completed their period of incarceration and have re-entered society. They've already been through a trial with a judge or a jury and sentenced to a punishment that fit their crime. They've served their time and have been released. Research shows that the restoration of rights actually makes communities safer. It reduces recidivism, and because people feel part of our democracy and society and have a say in what happens in their communities. So this amendment is critical for the safety of all Virginians, as well as critical to our values in justice and redemption as Virginians. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Did you want to have the final word?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would again repeat that Virginia is the only state to permanently disenfranchise all individuals with felony convictions unless they individually petition the governor for rights restoration. This amendment is about reintegration, redemption, and justice, and it guarantees that the right to vote is fundamental for our democracy. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Seeing no other questions or comments, we operate from motions.
I move to report.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded to report House Joint Resolution 2. If there's no discussion, if the clerk could please open the rolls and members cast their votes. If all members who desire to vote have voted, that does pass on a vote of 15-6. And we will now go to House Joint Resolution 3, and we call up Chairman Sickles. Sir, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, friends. First time I've been on this side for 22 years. I was on this committee for 22 years. It's funny to see my friend David sitting here on the front row taking my place here today. I have the happiness amendment. I have a bipartisan amendment. We've got people on both sides who supported marriage equality. We've had it realistically legally for 11 years, and nobody's straight marriage has been harmed by it. More people are happier now than they were before. More people have the legal confidence they need in their family to move forward than they had before. And so it's been a great success. But I urge you to read our state constitution, because it's pretty drastic what the voters added in 2006. If you pass this today, you'll give them a chance to repeal it exactly 20 years after it was put into our Constitution. Several times when I've offered this, I've just read it, but I'll skip that today. This limits marriage license to 2 adult persons. We have language in here that clergy acting in their religious capacity are protected by our code language that we passed a couple years ago. Plus, we have that good old First Amendment that gives people religious freedom. There's no clergy that will ever be required to officiate at a same-sex marriage. So I urge you to support happiness and keeping families together, and do it one more time. We had 49 folks on the other side of the aisle last 2 years, and only 35 voted no. So that is a great victory, and hope to get something similar today. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chairman Sickles. Are there any questions from the committee? All right, if you are here to speak in support of House Joint Resolution 3, if you will please come forward.
Madam Chair, my name is Kylie Moss on behalf of ACLU Virginia. I'm policy counsel in support of this resolution. Love is a Virginian value. The Commonwealth's Constitution should reflect that everyone deserves to marry the person that they love. I want to emphasize the importance of enshrining this right. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, committee members, my name is Joseph Papa, and I am here in support of the amendment. I live here in Richmond with my husband. We are both business owners and serve on various boards and committees to better our community. I grew up in Petersburg and attended both Longwood and Virginia Commonwealth universities. And in 2008, I made the difficult decision to move to New York because, as Delegate Sickles referred to, the state that I grew up in had decided that I couldn't marry the person I love. When I was there, I met my husband, and a few years later, we moved to New York. We decided to get married in Virginia while still living in New York before the Supreme Court ruled that marriage was legal. Unsure of that outcome, though, we decided to get a civil union. With their later decision that affirmed marriage and this progress, given the progress we saw in Virginia, we chose to make Virginia our home again in 2016. We love it here and wouldn't want to live anywhere else, but the fact remains that if the marriage was returned to the states, our marriage would be invalidated because of the state constitution. No citizen of this beautiful state should live in fear that the benefits and joys of marriage would be taken away by the government. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Narissa Rahman, and I'm the Executive Director of Equality Virginia. Where are you? And I'm here today with my wife in strong support of HJ3 to protect marriage equality and marriages like mine. Before I say anything, I just want to deeply thank Delegate Sickles for your years of work, especially as you prepare to leave the General Assembly in a new role, because you've never stopped fighting for the community. We're finally here, ready to finish the work that you and others began and finally get it done. So thank you, Delegate. 2026 marks 20 years since Virginia enacted the Marshall-Newman Amendment, a constitutional amendment that wrote exclusion of LGBTQ marriages into our founding document. And 20 years ago, Virginians sent a message about who was considered worthy of recognition and protection and who was not. And 20 years later, we have the opportunity to write a new chapter for Virginia and replace a legacy of exclusion with one of affirmation. Virginia has changed. Virginians have changed, and we can ensure the Constitution reflects the hope and promise. To say clearly and unequivocally that in Virginia, love, like the love Brianna and I share, is respected, and our Constitution reflects who we are now, not who we were told to be or who we thought we were 20 years ago. Marrying Brianna was the most joyous moment of my life, next to being her wife every day, and we've experienced countless special days and anniversaries that not only make a marriage, but also make a lifetime. And that's what this amendment is about. It's about turning to our LGBTQ friends and neighbors like us and letting them know that they deserve the same freedoms, that no matter what happens at the Supreme Court, we will be comforted by the knowledge that we, as Virginians, made a choice to have each other's backs no matter what. And for all these reasons, and I hope this is the last time I have to say such words in this committee, but I urge you to pass this resolution and send it to the floor for a full vote. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Rena Hicks with Freedom Virginia. Not only is this the happy amendment, but it's also the right thing to do, and it's great for economic security, even things like access to health care. So it grows the economy, it benefits everybody, and it hurts nobody. Please support this bill.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Ashley Crocker of Progress Virginia, and we support this amendment. Thank you.
So we'll now go online, and we have Alex Sprague in support of the resolution.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. If I understand correctly, one of the rules was not to be disrespectful. Well, guess what? By being denied the right to marry, I feel disrespected. And so I just want to say, first of all, thank you, Delegate Sickles, for your incredible years serving in the House of Delegates. And hope that this is the year that we finally achieve this, and making sure that Virginia is for lovers, for equality, and for non-binaries like myself to be allowed to be ourselves in this society. Thank you so much.
So we're going to come back to the committee. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Using your request to speak button. Do y'all want to make up some? Okay, thank you. I sincerely apologize if there is anyone in the room that would like to oppose House Joint Resolution 3. If you will please come forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Dr. Todd Gackey, speaking on behalf of the Family Foundation. We're in opposition to this resolution because it violates three fundamental principles that contribute to humanity and a healthy society. First, by separating sex and gender, this amendment denies biological reality. A person's sex is immutable, and while one can change appearance or take drugs or remove healthy body parts, sex is rooted in biology and DNA. A male remains a male and a female remains a female. And embedding this false ideology in the Constitution will lead to confusion and legal instability. And second, because it's real and fixed, marriage is the union of two biological opposites, a male and a female, a man and woman, for purpose of procreation and raising children. This understanding of marriage is not outdated. It is a timeless principle that has allowed societies to flourish. And then third, despite what the patron has mentioned, there are no protections for clergies, religious organizations, and individuals in this constitutional amendment because it trumps statutory language as we discussed on the last bill. And by enshrining this ideology in this Constitution, it will threaten privacy, safety, and religious liberty, rights of conscience. So for these reasons, we oppose this resolution. Madam Chair, members of the committee, Jeff Caruso with the Virginia Catholic Conference. Marriage has an original design and purpose that existed before any nation, any religion, and any law. And we urge you to preserve that original design which currently exists in our Constitution and resist attempts to redefine or change that. So for these reasons, we urge you to please oppose this amendment. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sheila Fury, and Delegate Sickles is disingenuous when he says that this does not interfere with the religious liberties of individuals in this state. Everyone in this committee knows, and everyone in the General Assembly is aware that a constitutional amendment overrides the current code in Virginia. Further, the insertion of the word gender is dangerous and is an understatement. Gender ideology was introduced by John Money and Alfred Kinsey, both known pedophiles. Alfred Kinsey sexually molested over 600 children and was never convicted. John Money also was a pedophile and sexually abused children. And these are the psychologists that have given us the framework that is gender ideology. And yet the truth is never spoken about gender ideology. And now you're making this a constitutional issue when you introduce gender into marriage or into civil unions. And for this, I oppose this amendment.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Dr. Michael Huffman, the Virginia Assembly of Independent Baptists, and with all due respect to the patron, this amendment does not give freedoms from participating from clergy. It did at one time, but it was taken out, and because of Article 12, Section 2 of our Virginia Constitution, we can't be added back in at this point because we're on our second session. We believe the First Amendment of the United States and the First Amendment of the Commonwealth of Virginia requires religious liberty. And to force a clergy or justice of the peace or anyone else acting in a spiritual capacity to perform a same-sex marriage is a violation of the Constitution. And so for those reasons, we ask that you vote no for this unconstitutional constitutional amendment. Thank you.
My name is Marnie Deaton. I'm coming as a representative of Concerned Women for America, Virginia. I'd like to say that I have 9 children, 3 are biological and 6 are adopted, and my adopted children were ripped from their biological parents. And I would like to have seen them be raised by their biological parents. Every child on this earth comes from a biological mother and a biological father, and they need to be raised by their biological mother and their biological father, if at all possible. And when that doesn't happen, we acknowledge that as a tragedy. I don't blame homosexuals for wanting to get married or for wanting to raise children, and I understand the idea of their happiness, but there's a right of children to have a mom and a dad. And the problem with gay parenting is not the gay parent. The problem is the missing parent. If you have two women, you don't have a dad. And if you have two men, you don't have a mom. I oppose this amendment. Thank you.
I'm Kathy Meckley from Franklin County, and I agree with everything that's been said up here as regard to why they oppose this amendment, and I do as well.
Thank you so much for your time. If you were not able to speak again, you can have your written comments be put on Hot Speak, and I do again apologize for skipping over y'all out of order. Are there any questions or statements from the committee? Mr. Chair, excuse me. Delegate Waxman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the issues that was brought up was clergy's ability to not have to perform the ceremony if asked. I was wondering if council could comment on that. Does that still remain the case if this becomes part of the Constitution?
Can I just say before Meg speaks to that,
Delegate Sickles.
I was talking about the U.S. Constitution First Amendment protection of freedom of religion there. If you paid any attention to the Supreme Court recently, they've been very aggressive in protecting religious liberties. And that is why we don't need it in this bill. Is that good, Council?
Delegate Leftwich.
Madam Chair, if I may, I do appreciate that response, but I was hoping to get a response from Council.
I understand, and as chair, I've called on Delegate Leftwich because if you looked at her body language, she had nothing to add. Thank you, Delegate Leftwich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just didn't know if there's anybody online to speak in.
So if they were online to speak, they would be there, and that's why I didn't call anyone.
I didn't know because of all the other glitches we've had.
Appreciate the flag. Anyone with a question or a comment? Before we go to the patron, I personally want to thank our former member of Privileges and Elections, who was my mentor when I first got to this committee, and who we wish all the best to, and thank for your diligent work, not only on this committee, not only on this joint resolution, but for all that you have done for Virginians. And now, if you would like to have the final word on your joint resolution.
Well, I'd just like to say that this is really about legal rights for people, to everyone have equal rights. It's not about what you believe marriage ought to be in your religion. No one's going to force your religion to take up something they don't want to do. That's what makes America unique, frankly. So this is about making everyone equal on a legal basis. No one's forcing anyone to marry anyone they don't want to marry. If you don't believe in this, don't marry another man. Just stay away from it. If you don't want to marry another woman, that's your choice. Please don't do it. I rest my case.
All right. Seeing no other.
Madam Chair.
Delegate Converse-Fowler.
I move the amendment.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we would report House Joint Resolution 3. Seeing no discussion, if the clerk will please open the rolls and members cast your votes. And that resolution is reported on a vote of 16-6. Thank you. We will now call up Delegate Willett for House Joint Resolution 4.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's great to be back with you again. I feel like it's Groundhog Day because I was here not that long ago through our process, but it is great to join you again. I will jump into HJR 4. I'll just briefly describe that. This is creates essentially a narrow temporary exception, allowing the General Assembly to modify one or more congressional districts in between the regular 10-year or decennial reapportionments. If another U.S. state redraws its congressional districts mid-decade for reasons other than completing a decennial redistricting or complying with the court order. Madam Chair, just very briefly, I'm going to tell you what this constitutional amendment does, and probably more significantly, what it does not do, just so we're clear. What this resolution will do will keep Virginia's options open. This is about preserving flexibility for future redistricting decisions. This is temporary, as I've stressed. This will expire in 2030. It's a temporary safeguard, not a permanent change. It allows voters to decide if there is redistricting or not. If this does pass again today and passes the House and the Senate, it's still ultimately the voters' decision as to whether we have this or not, and that'll be through referendum. What the resolution does not do, we are not eliminating the Virginia Redistricting Commission. They will stay in their stead. They will do their 10-year process again. That does not change. We are not expanding the authority to change our district lines, the state district lines. That is not part of this. We're just talking about congressional lines. And it, more importantly, does not change any of the lines as they exist today. This just creates the process to consider doing that, but it is not a mandate that these lines be changed. With that, Madam Chair, I appreciate the indulgence, and I'd be happy to answer questions, and I think we may have some testimony.
Delegate Bloxham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for the patron. So I'm looking at the trigger. It looks like between line 33 and 40. Has the trigger already been pulled? And a follow-up question to that, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, to answer the delegate's question, of course, the implementation of this constitutional amendment as to what that process is, that's going to be dictated subsequently, if it passes. So the particulars of that, determining what the lines are, determining what the process is, if there's been a trigger, that's really going to be left to the implementation of this.
A follow-up, Madam Chair.
Just before that, just going to add on, in addition to the enabling legislation, California and North Carolina have redrawn their maps.
Which is true.
So the answer to the question was yes, the trigger's been pulled. So my follow-up question is, since the triggers has been pulled this year, would it be possible for the General Assembly to redistrict every year till 2030, the congressional lines?
If there was well, the constitutional amendment will provide a process to consider that, and then the details would be in that in terms of is there a limitation on how often that could be done. The amendment would not address that.
Madam Chair.
Delegate Bloxham, do you have a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure.
So the way I'm interpreting this, and the patron can correct me, is the trigger's already been pulled, and there's no limitation if we pass the legislation to redo it every year till 2030, and then it would go back to the way that the people wanted it done by a nonpartisan or a bipartisan commission. Is that a correct statement?
Madam Chair, just to address that, that is certainly in the realm of possibilities. I think that may be an extreme example, but it could be within the realm of possibilities. But maybe to elaborate on my answer, this whole thing is extraordinary. I mean, I'm only standing here because of the most extraordinary circumstances. It was not anyone's idea that we're going to wake up in October and have to consider a constitutional amendment, but here we are.
Any other questions at this time? All right, if there's anybody in the room that is here to speak in favor of House Joint Resolution 4, if you will please come forward. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Tram Nguyen, Co-Executive Director of New Virginia Majority, and we support this amendment. The theme today is let voters decide, right? And one of the great things about Virginia's constitutional amendment process is that it does allow for voters to decide. Virginia is not a direct democracy state. We are not a ballot initiative state. Citizens can't bring forward issues on our own. We rely on you all to allow us the opportunity to vote for ourselves on some issues, and this is one of those issues that we're really asking an opportunity to actually decide for ourselves. There's a whole process, but this allows us to start that process, and if this is able to get on the ballot, then we get to decide how we want to defend our democracy. So we really urge you to support this amendment today, let the process move forward, and let voters decide how we want to protect our democracy. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Blair St. Ledger Olson on behalf of the Virginia League of Conservation Voters. We've been consistent in our position today saying equitable access to the ballot box is key. This simply puts this to the voters. as my colleague said, let them decide. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Ashley Crocker, Progress Virginia. We support this amendment because voters should choose their leaders, not the other way around. This is a fair and limited way to push back and protect free and fair elections. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Ryan O'Toole, Freedom Virginia. At a moment when Virginia's economy has been so devastated by federal actions, we think it's particularly important to give Virginians a voice at what their federal representation looks like. Thank you.
And if there's anyone in the room to speak against House Joint Resolution 4, please come forward.
Good afternoon, Ann Robison, Yorktown, Virginia. I'm respectfully asking you to oppose this bill. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Lynn Bernard from Chesterfield, Virginia, with Concerned Women for America. I'm really concerned that on two accounts about the sovereignty of Virginia. Number one, that we are relying on other states to dictate whether we're going to redraw our redistricting lines. And number two, that we are putting something into our Constitution, which is supposed to be durable. We're putting in a temporary clause, supposedly until 2030. We know what a 2-week lockdown was supposed to be. It turned out to be 2 years. So there is the possibility that this continues on after 2030 if we look at it under that lens. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Steve Rossi with the Family Foundation of Virginia. We oppose this proposed constitutional amendment. What's been lost in the flurry of all this redistricting around the country is that Texas's hand, and they're the epicenter of this, as we know, was forced by a federal appellate court decision. They had something the appellate court ruled called coalition districts, which were unconstitutional. Virginia has no such problem, has no coalition districts. Our congressional districts are uncontroversial in that way, and this amendment is totally unnecessary. It's also an amendment where the legislators would choose the voters rather than the voters choosing legislators, and that seems to be counterintuitive to our democratic system. And I think that's about it. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee.
Hello again, I'm Kathy Meckley from Franklin County, and I just want to state, excuse me, I have worked at the polls for a number of years. I've been a chief as well as an assistant chief, and I can attest, at least in Franklin County, our elections are free and fair and equitable. I have no problems with the way our elections are run right now. So any statement that says this would improve upon that, I seriously question. Also, we have just had, traditionally we have a census every 10 years, and then we have the redistricting. And all that went out the window with this Constitution if this is passed, because we were just redistricted 3 years ago. We don't need to do this every couple of years. So there's no sense, especially as it's been pointed out, that this is only good till 2030, then what? So we need to wait till our next census so that we can see where the population lies, and then we redraw the district's lines if necessary. Thank you.
We will now go online. We have speaking in favor, Suk-Young Oh.
Hello, Suk-Young Oh. I am the Executive Director of Nakasek Action Fund Virginia, and I live in Norfolk, Virginia. I'm here to join the others speaking in support of letting voters decide. Passage of this will allow us to decide how we want to protect our democracy, because voters should choose leaders, not the other way around. Thank you.
Alex Sprague.
Well, thank you again. Let me be clear, this wasn't an easy decision on my part. It's like I've never liked the idea of gerrymandering. I never liked the idea of, doing this and that because you can't win otherwise. So what I made a self-commitment that I would only support this amendment in the instance in which it would only allow gerrymandering in the emergency instance in which the opposite party is doing that in other states. And you heard the patron himself. it's just temporary. And based on the context of what it said, I felt that it did exactly that, because it says in the instance of other states. So I'm very much going to vote yes on this should it reach my ballot, and to everyone that's been saying, oh, why are you silencing us like this? Well, serves you right for silencing us in Texas and possibly Florida and Indiana. So there you go.
Speaking against House Joint Resolution is Ann Gregorian.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to say that gerrymandering has no place in Virginia or in our Constitution. It allows for the General Assembly to disregard the redistricting commission that we all voted for recently. In 2021, the Virginia Voting Rights Act was sponsored and passed by many on this committee and the General Assembly to protect exactly against this abuse and disenfranchisement of voters. If this passes, voters will not decide again until 2030. This amendment is nothing more and nothing less than a blatant power grab being pushed through in unconventional fashion. And I strongly oppose this, and I hope the rest of Virginia will as well.
Any other questions? Delegate O'Quinn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is now the time to speak to the resolution?
Let's see if we have any questions.
Okay.
Any questions from the committee? Okay, it is the appropriate time.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Speaking to the resolution. Thank you, Madam Chair. So we've heard 4 constitutional amendments today. 3 are the same in how they were passed and when they were passed. This one is very, very different. The first reason it's very different is because 2/3 of Virginians, only 4 elections ago, decided that they wanted to end partisan gerrymandering. Do you know how difficult it is to get 2/3 of Virginians to agree to anything these days? I mean, it was pretty overwhelming in modern political scene. And again, everyone talks about giving a voice. They had a voice in 2021. That's not that long ago. And they were pretty clear in it. And now we're going back and we're using this ends justifies the means method to get there. The other reason that this amendment is very different than the other 3 that we've just heard and voted on is the other 3 were heard on their first reference in February of 2025, well in advance of the start of the election season in September. This particular amendment was heard after the elections had already begun in 2025 and voted on just mere weeks before the polls officially closed. And so, Madam Chair, it's my contention that this particular amendment is improperly before the General Assembly and that we voted on it after the election had begun, besides the fact that I disagree with partisan gerrymandering. And I know that there's discussion that this, and the delegate's right. He's absolutely right that this does not draw a map per se, but it allows maps to be drawn. And I think we've already seen what those maps look like based on the social media presence from some people who have already adopted said maps. And so, Madam Chair, it concerns me that we're attempting to go back to the bad old days of gerrymandering, and it concerns me as to how this particular amendment got in front of us in the first place. Thank you.
Any other? Delegate Lefwich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So most everybody has kids, and if your kid came to you and said, hey, I want to do this because so-and-so's doing it, you would look at them and say, well, 2 wrongs don't make a right. And that's exactly what Virginia is doing. We all know that Virginia, in any given period, is probably a purple state, but obviously it trended very blue this time around. And people are taking advantage of that to get a constitutional amendment passed to exponentially suppress the vote of Republican voters. And again, I would just repeat that 2 wrongs do not make a right. Virginia's better than that.
Any further comment? Questions? Delegate Willett, you have the final word? Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I really do appreciate the committee's time again this afternoon. We all just literally moments ago took a constitutional oath, including to the U.S. Constitution as well as the Virginia Constitution. So I think all of us, I do respect that. I think we all take that oath very seriously, and we take protecting the Constitution very seriously. But What we're facing are just the most extraordinary circumstances. And again, we're not here really by choice. We're here because our hand was forced. What the president and his administration did in terms of forcing other states or requesting other states to go through this redistricting process that they've done, that's diluting our vote with that change. And I think what we're trying to do here is preserve free and fair elections for Virginians, to preserve their voice, our voice, in those elections. And this just gives Virginians a level playing field and lets the voters decide whether to go through that redistricting process. That's going to be their choice, but protecting our children and our grandchildren. So I hope, again, folks understand the seriousness of this. This is something, the reason we have the parameters, the guardrails we have, is because of the seriousness of changing a process that the voters did approve in terms of the bipartisan redistricting, and to get back to that when we will do that in due course when this expires in 2030. So again, thank you for your time today.
And I'm going to take a moment of chair's privilege, because I do want to point out that Texas and North Carolina legislators themselves said that their actions were in direct response for our president's call for 5 more seats. Further, Civics 101 delegate shows us that federal actions impact our Commonwealth. We have appropriators that are in the room now, and they know for certain that in the appropriations room, House Resolution 1 has blown a hole through our budget. So we cannot act like other actions do not impact us. Further, I would say that the voters having a voice and letting them decide is the opposite of voter disenfranchisement. And further, I would say 4 elections ago was a lifetime ago for those of us that live at the intersections where the federal government is coming directly after our lives. The East Wing of the White House existed 4 years ago. So it is very hard for me to hear that 4 elections ago was not a long time ago with the speed of how our country has changed. And finally, with my point of personal privilege here on this committee, going back to the old days is not 4 years. Going back to the old days is what the Klan and their friends are trying to do with the policies that are being passed at the federal level. So I just wanted to offer some context and perspective to some of the things that we heard. And if there are no further remarks or questions from this committee, I will entertain a motion.
Move to report.
Second. It's been moved and properly seconded that we would report House Joint Resolution 4. Seeing no discussion, if the clerk will please open the rolls. Members, cast your votes. And House Joint Resolution does pass on a vote of 15-7. I want to thank all of, thank you, Delegate. I want to thank all of those that are here today to be present, part of the legislative process. I do urge you, this is the first day of 60 days. Don't let today be the only day that you have participated. And if you did not get a chance to speak, that link for you to enter your public written comment is hodspeak.house.virginia.gov. And I just do want to say, I urge the public to look up the very impressive biographies of second chances that have happened for our members past and present on both sides of the aisle, so that we do not overlook what second chances can do for my colleagues and me. And if you did come before this committee and invoke race, specifically Black people, I invite you to come to all of the other committees on all of the other days to fight for our race as well. If there are no other comments or questions, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. It's been moved and properly seconded that we would adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.